if you could take a meditative, more meditative uh, attitude towards the entire course, not worrying too much about anything other than flowing with it, then we will have a great class. So, Yvette, do we need to do any of the Church of Light opening or closing?
Um, no, we can just announce it. I just started the recording. So, this is the second Mental Alchemy class. And, yeah.
Okay, that's it.
I'm lost. All right.
That's it. That's all we need to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if everybody could just get comfortable, that includes going and getting yourself a tea or coffee or something decaf for the evening. Finding your favorite chair to the extent you can, your computer, your favorite seat, and just settling in, noticing as you bring your attention to your breath and either closing your eyes or just softening them, inviting yourself to bring that attention into your body, around where you're breathing, around your heart space. And as you breathe, just in and out comfortably, nothing forced. Notice, are there energies that came before and events before now that might be hanging on to you? And if so, letting them just fall by the wayside for now. And then if there's something that you're concerned about, either in the far future or later tonight, letting that also just fall away. Noticing that you're just allowing yourself to be here, present for this class. Allowing yourself to just be in this present moment and just breathing here in the present moment. Now, if your focus is either with your eyes closed or if it's just settled on a gaze in front of you, noticing that you can bring that focus to this Zoom space. And as you bring the focus to the Zoom space, just being able to gently be here for the slides and for the presentation, making sure that you just allow yourself to listen to my voice. And there are slides, but not taking them too seriously at this point, just allowing what is coming to your visual space and to your auditory space to sink in to the extent you want it to do so in the present moment. So just bringing that attention there. And I notice everyone has their cameras off. No need to turn your camera on during the presentation. Maybe afterward if people want to interact a little bit, but just sitting back and allowing yourself to be. So I'm going to share. And that if you can just tell me if you can see the presentation screen. Oh, I get a thumbs up from Gail. Thank you so much, Gail.
Yes.
I
Yeah, I
appreciate
can see.
that. Okay, great. So now I've got to figure out how to get the arrows going. without Zoom window blocking me. There we go. So full screen works okay for everybody? Okay, great. So this is the second of 6 courses for the Church of Light, and we are going to have fun with this today and in the future. Yvette and I have found that if we're not having fun, then we're not actually doing the mental alchemy that allows us to um, let it sink in. So hopefully you enjoy. Um, a lot of what I have brought into today, if not all, is information from the Church of Light books and quotes from C.C. Zane. So we haven't strayed from those. And in the books, it's noted that it is so widely recognized that the power of mental attitude markedly alters the condition of physical life. And so we can find that in almost any community, and you can probably find it within your own family. What we are using for the terms mental is pertaining to the mind, and alchemy as changing one thing into another by a series of processes. And we're going to get to the point where we teach how to do that within ourselves. The review from last year is just a review that we have a four-dimensional body that has thought element compounds that make it up, and that there are desires that push us, that body has nutritive desires and reproductive desires, in addition for the desire for significance. So we have these 3 primitive desires. So one is the nutritive, meaning you're seeking to add something to the energy that and attract essentially something. And the reproductive desire is to really um, attain significance, and you're putting something out there. So imagine artwork, or the reproductive pieces, that whether you have one or the other. And then what drives us to do this is not only this reproductive desire and nutritive desire, but it's also this desire for significance within the spiritual whole. So we have these forces driving us, and they do it um, sometimes more strongly than others, depending on what our own makeup is. I like to think myself of the way that the physical realm is, it's kind of like the underworld. If you know of Stranger Things, it's like the underworld of the astral. So whatever's in the astral, there's a projection down into this more, I would call it slower world, kind of like the water that you see in the left hand. So what's happening here is the responses to the conditioned astral body is done in the physical realm, but it's done a little bit slower. So if you can imagine, we're really uh, not struggling, but we have more of a push to get to where we need to go, which is why these desires that we just spoke about are so important. And in the books, it asks, what is the standard value of man? And that's specifically in the spiritual alchemy book. And it talks about it not being the body, because it's not changeless and it's not durable, as we know from our physical bodies as we get older and eventually it dies. It's not the soul, because as we'll talk about more as we move on, the soul is changed, it's affected by every moment of our lives. So basically, it's the total of experiences, and it continues to change. So what is this standard value? I took this picture from somewhere that's not from the Church of Light, but it was the best way that I could visually show my perception of the ego in relationship to the physical body, which I would see as the physical body in this picture, and the spiritual, or I should say more astral body that I would say is can be perceived as being around this body. And then we have this ego. It's this spark from deity, and the books say that it is basically what the sun is to astrology, the I am, or gold to economics and industry. It is the changeless I am, and it can be perceived in awareness, but it takes practice and meditation to get to a place where there is a way to see from the ego what is happening with the physical body and the astral body and the way that the two are responding to experiences. So it's malleable and it adapts, but it is more steady and it's not tarnished. So it continues to bring this energy that can be tapped into. And again, none of this needs to really be, um, mechanically understood right now. It's just getting a better understanding to where we're getting. So the steps that we need to go through as we get through this course are learning our individual mental chemistry and then understanding the effect produced by adding another particular thought food. That's the alchemy, and then continuously practicing. So we're going to focus for a while on step one, because that's the most important part. It is the foundation of the ability to apply mental alchemy. If you don't know the substance that you are alchemizing, then you cannot do alchemy. And so, how do we learn our mental chemistry? And we're going to talk a lot about that. And simply put, this is my chart, just so everybody knows. Um, so I don't share any other people's charts, but uh, we need to look at our charts, at our astrology charts. So really, when it comes to alchemy, there's, I guess sort of intuitively, there's a way to um, do alchemy, but it's really not scientific. If we're going to do this scientific route, so to speak, then we need to learn very well the energies that are in our birth chart and how they're interacting. And it's important to understand that the planets aren't responsible for the events and conditions that are attracted. We'll talk a little bit about what are. The planets just are. So we'll get into what they map, but for instance, Saturn maps safety elements. And so we're starting to build a map, right? So we know safety element means Saturn, and Saturn for me is in Leo in my fourth house. Oh, sorry, I had this originally second house, so I need to um, probably, I don't want this to be messed up, so I am going to do a piece of editing right here because I want to make sure that we have something that people have that's correct. So I appreciate you bearing with me. But so, let's see. So it's the house of thoughts centered on domestic matters. So there we go. So hopefully we have that right. So we have Saturn in the fourth house, and we know then that for me, if I go into fourth house matters, domestic matters, I'm going to have a natural drive for safety thinking. Because what these planets that affect us and that really are birthed into us when we're born do for us is they give us sort of this natural foundation of what thoughts are going to come about in any particular space. We'll say house for now. But what we have to also remember is this map comes from this astral plane projected down into this physical world. So this astral body has very similar energetic patterns that, as they come down into this physical world, give us these tendencies. So they're ours. From the time we're born, they're just ours. And though these things are not necessarily the things that are responsible for the events and conditions attracted, we'll get into more about what is. We just need to know that for ourselves, if we want to know ourselves, then we need to know where the planets are in our chart and how they express. And then we need to start to learn how they express for us based upon life events. So we can do that by looking at different dates, and we can look at, transits and other things, but we're not going to get into that here. What we're going to learn about is just what we specifically need to know for the mental alchemy piece. So I suggest that everyone who isn't, we have people who are here today who have been doing this for 50 years. So, I'm basically a baby compared to them when it comes to astrology. So, basically they know way more than me. But there are others here who may have not really dialed into the energies of both the planets and of the signs. And for us to really understand how to do mental alchemy, we really need to understand those things. So we will provide you some worksheets that have this information, so you don't need to write it down, that have basically the building blocks so you can go back to. But if you look at the thought energies, 1 through 10 of the planets, it's important to remember we've got the power, we've got the domestic, intellectual, the social, the aggressive, the religious, the safety, the individualistic, the utopian, and the universal. Those are the thought element families that affect us all. We all have these in our charts. They're just in different places and they match up with different things than other people. And some people's have, or some people have a lot of energy between the thought energies, and some people have less. We're so individualistic in the way that we are created. So imagine that all of us are part of this divine body. And in the Church of Light, we talk about the divine plan and the divine body. We're part of this divine body. And we are just sort of like this little speck, and maybe some of us are on the liver of the body, and some are on the toe, and some are the eye. And each part of that body um, requires the different things, so to speak. So each person has their own path, has their own set of choices, has their own pathway to be a cooperative component with the divine plan. And in the Church of Light, we talk about how we do the alchemy to be part of that cooperative piece. And as we do this alchemy, not only does it benefit us individually, but as we become more uh, alchemized, then we're also becoming much more alchemized to assist in the divine plan, which is just sort of this beautiful, we're doing it for ourselves, but we're also doing it for that. And we all have 1 through 10 of the planet thought energies. We also have 12 of the series. We all have the signs somewhere in our charts. And those signs represent the compartments of perception about ourselves. So there's the I am, the I have, the I think, the I feel, the I will. I analyze, I balance, I desire, I see, I use, I know, and I believe. So if we go back to my chart, we would say that I will use safety thoughts as part of my domestic thinking. So that's an example of a way to put it together so you can think about the way that your planets and um, uh, your signs work together. So uh, this is a chart that um, sort of makes itself up, and Yvette has provided this to us to help us understand that when a planet falls within a certain sign, it ha has a comfortability level there. And that comfortability level helps modify the planet's energy to express in different ways. And so it's important for everyone to um, really know what their planets are and where. So, are they at home? Are they in detriment? Are they exalted? Or are they in fall? And one of the reasons is because we start to talk about harmonies and discord. And there are some places where we have um, a planet that is in harmony, and so there's less of a challenge in life regarding it. But there's other planets that may be in detriment or in fall, and they may present more challenge to us. And so, um, from the perspective of mental alchemy, it's nice to know where they are because not only can we use some of the energies that are maybe exalted or at home to help us um, alchemize in some ways the detriment and in fall planets as they sort of it sort of comes together in an interesting way. Um, we can use it better if we know exactly where they are. So if you know do astrology and you haven't gone back and really thought about that for a while, um, in the context of mental alchemy, it's a good thing to do. So what we're going to really talk about today, and we're going to see this term over and over and over again, and that's conditioning. So essentially, conditioning is pain or pleasure. So in the course of our um, spark of deity, you know, sort of there's this soul or this astral body that starts to be created, and it's created by the process of conditioning, and it essentially gains a personality. Um, does it feel pain in relation to this thing or does it feel pleasure? Okay. And so this conditioned energy starts to build the way that we respond to the world. And that really gives us our action. And so, you know, if we have an aggressive thought, then we have aggressive energy, religious thought, then we have more sort of this expansive energy. And we need to remember that it is going to really be a good thing that if we can start over the next couple of months, if you haven't done so already, to really think about what your wants are, what your needs are, what you think somebody should do or shouldn't do, or what situation should or shouldn't happen. The more you can write your thoughts down in the I need, I want, he should, they should, etc., the better we're going to have fodder to work with later on. So the first thing is, as we move forward, is really starting to pay attention to how do you express your wants and your needs and he shoulds. Um, and even in situations, you can say the house should or the car should or whatever. As you start to notice these things that maybe are thoughts that fight with the reality of what's actually happening. So say you want something, but you don't have it right now, or you need something, but you don't have it right now, or he should do something, but he hasn't right now. and that causes tension or even suffering in your perception, that those are the types of scenarios that we want to work with. So it's important as you're collecting this information to really have a picture of the scenario and then the wants and needs that come out of it. So you might want to write it into a row like, this is what was happening and this is what I wanted, or something like that. And then putting down the corresponding feelings. I want this, and I'm this because I'm not getting what I want, or something to that effect. Or I'm angry because I want them to do this and they're not doing it. You can do love, angry, sad, happy, contempt, and just play with it. And really know that it has been scientifically proven that we can feel the conditioned energy in our bodies in relation to our thoughts. So as you have these thoughts that you have, thinking about where you feel the emotion that you're perceiving in your body. So you can say, I feel it in my heart space, or I feel it in my leg, or I feel it in my head. How um, uh, strong is it? How weak is it? These are the things that as we learn to meditate on our perceptions, we can much better use our bodily responses, which of course are connected to our astral conditioning, to figure out what is going on with us. So here are some of I really like the work of Byron Katie, and I know that a lot of us have talked about that before in other spaces, but there's this really great emotions list, and I know there's other people that have come up with emotions list. You can use whatever emotion list you like. This one's pretty expansive. What's nice is it gives you, if you're not sure what the emotion is, you can go to this and be like, it fits there. So that's what's nice. So I think this, and this is the energy, and this is where I'm feeling it in my physical body. Why this is important is because the conditioning that we're feeling has been built up by specific laws that our books talk about. And one of those laws is the law of association. So if you had a bad experience with a certain person or a certain place, and you go and see that person again, or you go to that place again, the conditioned response, either pain or pleasure, will happen to you automatically. And uh, so maybe it's happy, maybe it's like your bestie, and you're like, oh, I'm so excited I get to see my bestie, right? Well, the bestie, you associate that joy with the bestie. So we have this other law, and that is of resemblance and contiguity. And that means that something is either similar or dissimilar to something you've already experienced. So every experience we have, we relate it to some other experience, because that's the only way that our astral body knows how to learn. And of course, our astral body learns in a manner that is projected down to us. So we learn in the same way. So it may not be your bestie, but it may be somebody that looks like your bestie, so they resemble your bestie, so it brings joy, right? Or maybe it's not the same situation that you were in that caused you to have trauma, but it's a similar situation, and so it resembles it. Also, if you are in a place or in an experience that is right next to or in proximity of time to another space, they call that contiguity. And so there's this relationship that happens when one thing happens and then another thing happens. And you relate the one thing happening to another thing happening. Like the firework goes into the air and then there's a kaboom, right? So you see another firework, it goes into the air, and then there's the kaboom, right? So your body is expecting the kaboom, and people who don't like the kabooms may, sort of run into their house and put on their earphones so that they can't hear it. So um, as we have the experiences of association contiguity, we have either affinities or apathies to um, whatever experiences, every single experience that we come into. And what is interesting is every single moment of every single day changes our astral body, changes the bodies that we're in, and the body never goes back. So we're always moving forward. I tried to give this example of here is our guy, and the birds fly in, right, on the bottom. And so the person can never go back to the space where the birds haven't come in because this is now a new experience with this space, and there will always be that experience there added in as an energetic experience, which either the person could, like, the birds could fly in their face and it could be scary, or they could think it's this beautiful thing. And so the next time birds come in, there's that emotion that comes along with the conditioning that has happened. So the way that we have our values in life and our attitudes toward events built in the way that we just discussed is very important because our astral body has already been created in uh, um, um, and if you want to go to esoteric psychology, you can learn more about that. I'm not going to talk a lot about that. Yvette teaches an amazing class on video in esoteric psychology, so go there. Anyway, we already, when we have this birth chart, have this astral body, right? So the astral body already has conditioning. And so it already has some harmoniousness or some discordance in it as far as the conditioning of its life is concerned. And its life has this series in it, and it has the energies of the planets. So we're going to then say, okay, so those energies are projected down in, and they're from a recorded conditioning that has happened in the astral body. What it really helps me when I am engaging this process is to remember that there's this sort of order of creation. So you create your next reality. You create your the pathway of your being through really understanding what you're thinking, what you're feeling because of the conditioned energy, noticing how you act as a result, and noticing that what you receive in relation to your actions is the life experience, and it could be also what's causing poverty or failure or disease. So what we're going to do when we're doing mental alchemy is we're going to look at what we're thinking and what we're feeling, and we're going to take a look at how we can alchemize so that our actions may be altered if we want to change the way in which our life comes about in relation to certain energies. So we have harmony that is built into some thought cells, and that will determine more of the fortune direction. And we have discord. Oh, we have a TNE instead of a THE. I think everybody can understand that's what is there. But we have the discord, and that could lead us more towards the misfortune. We have, if you really understand the numerology, I would say, and it also goes into the tarot, but we have an octave in this plane that we work with, right? So you can think of music, the octave in music, there's no coincidence there. And as we work through do we go into the higher octave or are we going into the lower octave? And so the higher octave is more towards the divine plan, and the lower octave is sort of in the opposite direction. And so if you, from the words of the book, if you feel happy, then you're working from your higher velocity plane. But if you feel mean, which is sort of a lower velocity energy, then you're going to attract misfortune, and you may not even realize you're doing it. So we need to think about that velocity of those energy cells that are, or the energy that's coming from the thoughts. So everyone should have a birth chart report. If you don't have one, that's probably because you weren't in the last class. We sent links to everyone to print out or download your birth chart report. Please make sure that you download it when you get the link, because the links do go away after a while. So then you can keep it forever. These are your birth chart reports, and so they represent you at birth. Of course, many people, especially as we age, into our 30s and into our 60s, we have progressions that come in too. We're not talking about those right now, but we can at another time. Um, but what we can look at in our birth chart report is it starts to tell us what areas of our existence are being affected and how powerfully by what energies. And what's beautiful is in the birth chart reports, you can actually take on the electronic version, take a cursor over these bubbles and they'll give you more information. So it's fun to play with. Very cool that we have this. So thankful that the Church of Light has created this for us, because they really are a wonderful tool. But it starts to help tell us the nature of our existence and what we're getting in these different departments of life, which are represented by the houses, and also what we're getting in relation to our own bodily health, bodily experiences, etc. So, when we talk about our body, it's more like dis-ease, disease, right? um, Related to either discord or harmony. And when it comes to other areas of our life, we see how either we have fortune or we have misfortune in relation to our harmony or discordance. What's important about what we do in the Church of Light is we look a lot at that harmony and discord, and a lot of astrology does not consider that as much. And they do in a way that, they look at the aspects, and we'll talk about that a little later, but not as really focused as we do in looking at the harmony and discordance. So look at the harmony and discordance because in your chart, because that is going to tell you what your conditioned energy is. So again, sharing mine. Um, uh, Yes, for those of you who've done a lot of astrology, I've had to do a lot of alchemy. So um, everybody has a different percentage of and level of and power of harmony and discord. No one has the same. So we could never compare our lives to each other. I may have, you know, misfortune in a certain place, and you may have fortune in another place. It's just incomparable. We're all living our own existences and doing our own alchemy. And the more we get into the astrodynes, which is what we're looking at here with our power and our harmony in the houses, signs, and planets, the more we understand that none of us is at all the same as anyone else. And we all have our own power and our own energy to work with. So I have some very powerful, moderately discordant energies, some moderately powerful discordant energies, et cetera, et cetera. I also have some very harmonious weak energies. Um, it's kind of fun to really get into these things. And so when you look in your chart report, don't pass this by. Really study this area of discord and harmony, and powerful versus weak, because the more powerful, the more powerfully conditioned the energy is in your existence. So I always think of it as like the more significantly stuck, right? So we have to take more power to unstick it. So the so our discordant, moderately powerful, I'm going to have to take a harmonious, something that's, you know, creates that to be more harmonious, and I'm going to have to apply a moderately powerful push to that in order to do the alchemy. So it's really important that you know what power of your planet and your sign energy is in the specific instance that you're trying to alchemize in order to know how much power you need to add to it. So is it, you know, just kind of stuck in the mud or really stuck in the mud? And so what we have learned is that we have a nature of poverty, failure, and disease related to discordant compounds and discordant energies. And those are conditioned into us, and they have to be reconditioned in order to do our alchemy. That's really what we're doing. So what we have to do is understand that those energies, and we'll talk more about this, they're operating at a certain, say, radio wave, right? So you've got a radio wave and somebody else has got a radio wave and they're talking to each other, right? So the failure radio wave or the disease radio wave or the poverty radio wave is like hanging out there, and you potentially with a, you know, powerfully discordant area in your chart are matching up with that. And so what we're trying to do is like take ourselves to a higher wavelength so that we're no longer matching up into that lower wavelength that causes those things. And so the question is like, what can we do, right? Well, the answer is in the books. So it's really important to understand that through the Church of Light, we're taught to meditate for, I think it's at least 15 minutes a day. And that is really just becoming aware of your mind and your thoughts, because it's only becoming aware of our mind and our thoughts with our really, I would call it the divine spark awareness. So something cannot be aware of itself. So you start to learn that there is the ego can be aware of the physical and the astral conditioning, and it's only through that that alchemy can be applied, right? So we're using our conscious awareness that is um, unchangeable to look at the experiences and look at the powers and look at the energies, and to then consciously help the astral and physical body to apply different energies to then alchemize those compounds that we already have built into us by conditioning. So the conscious feeling, which is what I talked about, comes into your body, right? So it's what we know we experience in our body is the only food that the astral body can assimilate. So if I have a hate energy coming from my body, the astral body is going to assimilate that. If I have a joy energy coming from my body, then the astral body is going to assimilate that. And that's in relation to all of these experiences of life, right? So what we know is that the astral body has been built by our conscious awareness of the feelings that we have had in relation to all the experiences and related experiences ever of our astral body. And so essentially what we have to do, to the extent we have discordant areas that are not helping us raise to that higher octave, that higher level, is that what we need to do is apply something that's going to help our um, already built compounds, talk more about compounds, but all our already built compounds in our body that have been conditioned to change to a different radio wave. And so we do that through this conscious awareness. Where, right? So it's like that's really interesting, but um, does this make sense? Well, so this is where we get into the planets and the signs. So the relationship between the different planets and in the signs that they exist at the moment that you're born or at the moment that a transit happens creates what, we've called them in astrology aspects. We also, in the Church of Light and Zane's materials, we call them mental compounds. So aspects equal mental compounds, okay? What they are is a structure that's built between two planets, and we call it a stellar structure. And it's so if you take a 360-degree circle, which we have in our charts, right? It is the stellar aerials are calculated in degrees, and so it makes it really easy for us once we get down to it. And so what we've learned over the course of eons, right, is that certain relationships by degrees are more advantageous, more harmonious, and others are more discordant, right? So got harmonious, inharmonious. And it's kind of like, okay, well, that's all nice. How do I figure that out, right? Well, what's great is our birth charts that are created both by the Church of Light and in other places tell us what are the permanent stellar aerials in our astral bodies that are mapped in our birth chart. They're the aspects. Well, wow, I don't know what happened with that, but I'm going to go out again because that is meant to do this. That went really far off. Okay, so this was just going to be a short aerial. So we're going to call that a short aerial and one a long aerial. Okay, so we've got a short aerial, maybe that's mapped, and that picks up discord. We're going to call this the discord aerial, the short one, right? And the longer aerial that we see below, we're going to call that the harmonious. Well, they're not necessarily short or long. In reality, what they are is in degree relationship based upon the 360-degree circle. So we'll see more pictures of that, but it's important to understand that it is the combinations of the different relationships of planets that are reflected in aspects that tell us what our conditioned energy is, right? And then we have a desire. I want, I need, they should, right? In relationship to any particular experience in the different compartments of life. And we'll talk about the houses, but in the different compartments of life, we have the different desires that we feel in our body, you know, and that brings about hate, love, those sorts of things. But it also brings about a desire for some sort of action in relationship to that emotion. So, what is the action we're going to take, right? So, there's this tension in the compound that is going to be released. Okay, so we're going to take an action. So, with a pleasure tension, maybe we take an action of going and hugging our bestie. With a pain action, maybe it is we run away from the guy who punched us in the face last time, right? So that's the action in relationship to the desire. Well, what is the desire? The desire is, to like have this beautiful feeling of hugging the bestie again, or the desire is to avoid getting punched in the face again. So what we can do as is, you know, a very simple example is we have a separation compound, and that is represented in our charts by an opposition. And so basically in our astral body, they express in shoving each other apart. Okay. So they're pushing each other apart. So what we'll experience is energies that are challenging, in that instead of harmoniously coming together, they're challenging us when we come in relationship to them in the houses that they exist, through this energy of a separation. So you feel, say you have an opposition in your 11th house, which represents social, and I think it would be usually your 5th house, which may represent your children, right? So there may be a separation, or an opposition feeling. There may be an opposing experience between a social endeavor that you want to engage in and maybe the growth experience of your children. That could be an example. Hopefully, with all you astrologists here, if that was a really bad example, you can get a better one later, maybe. But anyhow, um, here is I think Christopher came up with this for us, and put this chart together that helps us here, that really simplifies what um, aspects we're looking at generally. And so we don't have, I think there's 10. Yeah, so we have 10 aspects. So we have 10 compounds. So it's not like we're dealing with a billion types of compounds, which is nice because we don't have that much to work with. And so, and also, if you look at like the square and, the semi-square, there's some energies that are similar, but just a little bit different. So you've got like, um, let's see, semi-square and sesqui-square. So we've got friction and agitation, right? So there we've got, and so as we're looking at the discordance level, if you look at the different aspects, you can see on the nature side that each aspect has what is perceived as a certain level of discordance. So with our conjunction, it's powerfully neutral. You have two planets next to each other, they're powerful, but it's neutral, right? Semisextile, we've got mildly harmonious, so, fun. It's sort of helping us in certain ways. So we've got semi-square, which is at your 45 degrees, and you end up with this mild discordance, okay? That's some friction. If you feel friction as a result of a semi-square, then that can be alchemized. Same with the square, same with the sesqui-square. I would say, generally speaking, we don't want to alchemize harmonious aspects because they provide us luck and opportunity and growth in a way that ends up being not only beneficial to us, but to the divine plan. And so we're really looking at alchemizing those, what I would say, challenging aspects. And when you get your chart report, it's going to say things like best and worst, right? Well, think of that as like beneficial or harmonious, or challenging or discordant. Because in the best or worst, it's not like assigning a value to you as a person or you as like your existence. It's telling you, okay, this is going to be challenging if it's saying your worst, right? Or if it's saying discordant. So it's telling you these are the life's challenge. If you don't have any challenges in life, it might be pretty boring. So, we don't want to have so much challenge that it kills us, right? But sometimes it does. And other times it doesn't, and it makes us stronger, right? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So, if nothing special is done in relationship to these relationships, then such as through conversion and mental alchemy, then the same kind of harmonious or discordant relationship between these planets is going to happen over and over and over and over in your life. If you haven't experienced the same things over and over, then you're much different than the rest of us because all of us have some sort of relationship between our planets. I don't know why this isn't going. Okay, there we go. Whoops, pushed it too many times. Okay, so looking at the compounds in our chart, we're going to get in our chart something that looks like this, um, this grid, okay? Um, and if you look at the grid, you'll see that there's planets across the top and planets down the side. And then you'll see that the aspects are put into the grid telling you what relationships you've got, okay? In this Church of Light grid, it actually gives you, some interesting, it gives you the powers also. So that's really helpful. And I just put in here in white, squares, semi-squares, oppositions. Most of the time, we're going to be working with squares, semi-squares, and oppositions, I would say. Not all the time, but most of the time in relationship to those challenging, like over and over and over again experiences, that's what we're working with. So again, it becomes easier to identify what we're going to be working with likely. Everybody's different, so, and everybody's chart's different. And you may have other aspects in your chart that cause you to need to do alchemy. But so if you can see my chart, I have what they call a T-square between multiple planets. That is where a lot of my alchemy has had to be done, especially because some of that energy is in my sixth house, and that is in relation to, and it's very discordant in Scorpio, and that is, and of course the moon's involved, and that has affected my health a lot. So I've had to really have an interesting alchemical perspective towards those happenings. So the bottom wheel that you see is from astro.com, so astro.com. Our chart reports do not draw the lines of the compounds or the aspects. They do give them to you in these grids though, so you don't need the lines. What I like about the astro.com, and you can get free charts made there with the lines included, is they show the challenging in red, the more beneficial in blue, and the more neutral in green. And when I was starting out, and even now, I like the visual, it helps me. So whatever way it works for you, there's different resources out there. The next thing that we need to really dive into, and we're not going to do so as much, we're just going to sort of introduce this in this class, and we'll dive in more in later classes. But we want you to be able to use this so that you can start really putting together your experiences with your compounds and how they're showing up in your life. um, we have the different houses. So I don't have them numbered here, but they start, hopefully you can see my cursor, they start um, on the left-hand side under the horizontal line, which is your AC, and they go house 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You have 12 houses. So you'll hear somebody say house one, right? So you'll have signs that will be shown in these different houses. Sometimes if you use a whole house wheel, you'll have on the cusp of each line here a new sign. The there are different types of charts in that there are some charts that go really by, instead of by signs, they go by degree. And so they say what degree, for me is Taurus is here, what degree is Taurus, and then Gemini will start here in my chart, and so this line will hit not 0 degree Gemini, but a different degree Gemini. So that is how, and if you can see the different signs, I intuitively go by the first house is me. So if you think about when you're born, right, and you're a baby, the first is you're born, right? So it's your personality, your health, your body, and sort of like that base personality, right? And then you go into your resources, like, is my mom feeding me, right? Or is my mom giving me a bottle? So that's like my next step in my evolution. The third is like, how do I communicate? How do I talk to my parents or my neighbors or my brother? And initially, like, how do I tell my mom I need something, right? How do I tell other people um, what I need from them, and what do I think about those relationships? So I think about that as like the learning how to communicate with others. Then the fourth house we talked about a little bit, it's the home, it's real estate. Think of your house, your home, your domestic space. It can also be your father. Sort of like father is the head of the household sort of thought, right? Then as you move into, okay, I have my home, the next is I have my fun, my entertainment, other children I play with, could be my children. And then into the sixth house, you move into this other experience in life, right? Where you got to work, go to school, you've got to have your daily experiences, your daily schedule, your coworkers. This is a place where you sort of are getting into that area of life in relation to that. It also is the place in life that represents any illness that comes about. So that is how sort of the health illness piece works as far as in mine. And then if you go into, and the over here, the next horizontal line we get to is called the DC, and that represents relationships. And the first relationship here, so we're going to talk about like it's likely the partnership or marital relationship. It can also be your relationship with the public or open enemies, like frenemies, right? Those are your open enemies. Um, and they're your enemies. And then it's that real partnership relationship, but it's not that deep, right? It's like more shallow relationship. It's like you're my husband or you're my partner in business. The next house, which is the eighth house, so we went from the seventh and then we go into the eighth, is death. They call it death, inheritance, taxes, but it's also it's ruled by Scorpio, and as you get into those energies, there's a more depth there. Like it is like also when we talk about death, like it's like death and resurrection, right? It's like it's the inheritance that comes after that final experience. So if you want to go more deeper, there's a lot of depth in this eighth house that I don't think sometimes people think about, that I think people do experience. And then the ninth house, which is right over up before the vertical line, that is your area of philosophy and higher education. So think about college, right? So you think about like the college space, opinions, and then this horizontal space represents your sort of reputation, business reputation, and you move into this 10th house here, you have your job and your career, your business, your honor. So it's really reputational and business together, and it can represent your mother. So those are the energies of that space. Moving into the next space, it's represented by social. So this is, you think about happy hour, right? Your happy hour after your business day. I always think about. So it's your friends, your social hour. It can also be social um, um, projects like think about going out and um, helping at a soup kitchen or developing a nonprofit for something that is important to you that might help people. So it's not only enjoying happy hour, but also helping people that are in need. This last house is the 12th house. It's the house of it says secret enemies, yes. So things you don't know. So think about all the things that you don't know, right? That is like some of the astral plane. It can be also disappointments, restrictions, um, and it can also be institutions like schools and like hospitals or even prisons. So there's a lot of depth there also. Um, so hopefully just by going through that a little bit, we can think more about, okay, if I have a planet in this house and it is in a discordant compound with another planet in another house, we're going to have some tension between those two houses. And the planetary energies, say Saturn, which is, the safety, and say there's another energy like personal, let's see, the sun, like is your sort of personal planet, then we're going to have some tension if there's a tension aspect between those, and they will be represented in relation to the type of tension in those houses. So it gets a little in depth from there. And so we have to really step this, okay? So we're going to identify the condition of life, like we have to go and say, what has our life been like, and where are the challenging places that have been repetitive to start with? Or you can just pick one really challenging experience, it's up to you, but start keeping those so we can start, okay, what is this condition of life that's challenging or suffering? Then we go, okay, what are the planets that we have that are challenging in our chart? And what are the departments, say, meaning houses, where you're finding misfortune? Is it health, finances, etc.? And as we do that, we can really see how our chart represents the experiences of our lives. And of course, the transits as they go around, and they will trigger different aspects. So that's why it gets a little crazy sometimes, because as the planets go around transiting, and even as your progressions progress in your progress chart, we can have different experiences that trigger with one another. And we are not going to be working with that as much, if at all, in this class, because we just don't have the ability to get there. We're already, I think, pushing time today. So anyway, why are you doing this? Why are you here? What draws you to alchemy? There's a reason you're in this class. What made you say, I'm going to go to that class? I think it'll be beneficial. What challenge in your life? Where do you perceive limitation that you want to alchemize? I would start there. Okay. Why are you here? What are the challenges? Where have you been seeing the challenges? Okay. Could be repetitive, could have just shown up as a result of a progression or some sort of transit that's now triggering, but whatever it is, um, think about it. What do you want to do with it, right? Okay, so then start thinking about your thoughts around that. I need, I want, they should, he should, it should, okay? So I need him to, I need her to, I need it to. Those are the best ways to start thinking of the thoughts, because those are the thoughts that then trigger the emotions, right? I need him to leave because I am feeling hate towards him. That's my emotion right now, right? Okay. Um, that's all we need to do. I need him to leave because I'm feeling hate, right? So, or I need to leave because I'm feeling hate towards him, or I'm feeling anger towards the situation, or I'm feeling sadness, or whatever it is. Really just figuring out where you're starting to feel that in your body, and you can start noting where it's presenting in your body. Start looking at the dates and times so you can just jot those down and then notice what it got you to react out of like this pure state of reactivity without any alchemization. You just went with it, right? What did you get from there? And what do you want? Is it the same? If it's something different, then you know you've got something to alchemize. And what we have to remember is as we do the alchemization, it is going to be slow. You take baby steps, and the more power you apply, the faster you can baby step up into above boredom. So think about everything above boredom is um, something that's going to attract fortune to your life, and everything under boredom is going to attract misfortune. And this is from the law of attraction. So this just goes to show you that everybody's saying the same thing, it's just in different words. So I love this chart because you can't go from guilt to contentment. You have to work your way up. So you're just gonna, so the patience is noting that just the one time you apply alchemy is not going to jump you to the fortune that you didn't get over the course of 30 years of going down one road of misfortune, right? You have to, your cart and your horse has already gone down that road, so you got to come back the road, and then you got to go up the other road. Sometimes it takes a shorter amount of time, but we have to remember that it takes attention, focus every time. It takes intention, knowing that you're going to do it and actually doing it, and it takes practice and patience, which is why it's not easy to, the alchemy's not easy, right? It has never been easy. In the history of, if you think physical alchemy, changing coal to a diamond or copper to gold, right? Changing one substance into another substance, it's not an easy process. You've got to go through a seriously applied process of adding another element in and making it stick. Okay. And how do we do that? It's through really, they call it nowadays mindfulness. Okay. It's been called many things over the course of years. Buddhists call it mindfulness. Other types of um, um, religions, of practices have called it something else, but we're just going to call it mindfulness because it's a modern term. You could call it directed thinking, which is some of the way in which we talk about it in the Church of Light. But really, mindfulness is beyond directed thinking. Mindfulness is really becoming aware of your thoughts before even applying the alchemy. So we have to start by becoming aware of what the thoughts and feelings are before we can even get there. So we're going to do a short meditation that will help us do this beginning process. And I know I have gone through a lot today, so let's just, sit back. I'll invite you all to sit back. You can even get into a different chair. You don't need to be looking at a screen. There's nothing to see here but some rocks and a flower and some water as they appear projected. And so just inviting you to close your eyes or even just lower your gaze. Find a comfy space where your body feels cared for and held by the earth. Noticing you're held down and noticing that you're breathing and the air around you is giving you life through that breath. Just breathing in and out that life that is this gift here. You don't even have to think about it. Your body just pulls in the life and lets out the byproduct without you even thinking about it. And noticing that that's there for you in this earth without you doing anything. This beautiful resource, as is gravity holding you here so that you don't float away. You're in this room that's providing you shelter so you can be comfortable as we go through this process. Now, as you breathe, keep breathing. And if any part of this process is challenging to you in a manner that makes you want to stop, just come back to your breath and let go of the process. And then if you want to titrate in and out of it, you can, but continue to go back and forth to your breath. If you don't like your breath as an anchor, you can use part of your body that is pleasing to you. So say your finger feels like a nice part of your body, you can take your attention there as your anchor. So your breath is a nice place because it reminds you of this gift. And so as we're going through this process, know that this process is giving you information to alchemize, and it's not intended to traumatize, okay? So let's find a situation that you've experienced in life in your mind that is at a level of 0 to 5 in your stress or in your suffering. So I would stay closer to 0, not as close to 5. Do not go in what would be experienced by you as a 5 to 10. We're not doing that today. I ask that you really follow this instruction so that we don't end up in situations where someone engages a traumatic response, because there's no counselors here, and I'm not one, and Yvette's not one. And so think about an experience that is a discordant experience that is from a 0 to a 5 in your experience, and go to the moment it happened. Go to the moment of remembrance. The way that we are conditioned is through memory. And the memory happens in they're saved in that astral body through images. And it is through the images that we are able to alchemize. So you can alchemize a situation that happened in the past by thinking about it and then applying the alchemy in the situation and noticing what happens. And your brain thinks that you actually did it in person. So it's kind of cool. So you can do the alchemy in a meditative practice. So as you go into this situation, think about why it was discordant. Did you want something? Did you need something? What was it that caused the discordance? I am hurt because he hit me on the head, right? Or I am frustrated because she should be doing something better, okay? So as you go through that, think about what it is that is the reason for the discord, okay? Notice, where is it? Is it in your house? Is it related to the house? Is it in a social environment? Is it related to a social environment? Is it in your work? Is it related to a coworker? Is it in your marriage and related to your spouse? Is it related to your spouse and your partnership, or maybe a deeper level of your relationship? Is it eighth house related to death, inheritance, or taxes? Notice that as I'm saying these things, your experience is going to show you in the image, and that will point you back to a department of life, a house. And so as you meditate on these experiences, and I'm hoping that you'll do this over the course of the next couple of months until we meet in August, that what you're able to do is keep a journal of those experiences. They don't have to be happening now. They could have happened 20 years ago, and you still feel them when you see a person again because of something that happened 20 years ago. You can go back to that situation of the initial conditioning, and we can alchemize right there. So what we want to do is really come up with these situations so that we can really build out what was going on there, and we can practice the alchemy in our mind's eye before this something like it happens again. So what we're doing is we're actually doing the alchemy through meditative practice, and we're doing it in anticipation of something happening again in relation to those aspects or compounds in our life. And we're doing it in a manner that is practice and it's fun and it's enjoyable. And so we're coming into these spaces, especially this space that you're looking at right now in this experience, not to go back and relive the discord, but to say, okay, what are the energies of the discord? And really, we're going to start pulling apart this situation. So we're going to be looking at it almost in a disembodied way. So you can see you and you can see the others, and your consciousness is looking at you and the others, and you're noticing what are the feelings in you, what are the thoughts in you, what are the others doing, and you're doing it like a scientist. So take a look at that situation from a scientific perspective more. And so as you go into these situations, if you get too caught up in your own experience in them, come back to your breath. And then if you need to, like titrate in a little bit, look as a scientist, come back out, titrate in a little bit more, just write down your observances, and notice that the intention is not to um, experience any trauma, okay? And again, always starting to practice like we do. We're not going to go run a marathon, right? We're not going to run a marathon if we haven't ever run. We're going to start walking and then running a little bit and then walking and running more. So we're going to start out hopefully with our experiences of discordance that are um, less intense in order to start working with them, and then more intense. So start writing down, is this a 0 to 1 to 2 to 3? And if something's starting to get to be like a 6 or 7, you can be like, I can write that down, but we're not going to work with that right away. So that's at least my suggestion. And I invite that this process happens in this gradual manner so that it feels comfortable and it's not traumatizing, because if we have a traumatizing experience, we won't go back to it. What we want is to have fun moments where we go, oh, wow, that's really cool. Now I can see the alchemy. Now I can feel the alchemy. And so we want to do it again. So noticing what are some of those experiences? So you're looking at the one experience you've been looking at. That's between a 0 and a 5. What's another that fits between a 0 and a 5? When was it? What was happening? Who was there? What department of life? Just writing those things down. What was your emotion? What were you thinking? It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be like a whole journal. It can just be like these little details. And noticing how, if you go to these experiences in your mind's eye, you can find these details. And just breathing and looking around the space, learning how to consciously, in a scientific manner, really look around the space of experience. And I just invite you for a couple of breaths just to titrate in or stand there as an observer in whatever experience you choose in this moment. Don't move from experience to experience, please, because it doesn't help in really, it's like moving from one room to another without actually experiencing the room. So let's experience this room in this space with these people in this moment of time. And then just look around and just breathe. What are your feelings? What is this person that you were in that moment feeling? What thoughts brought about the feeling? I want, I need, he should. What is this space? Where are you feeling the feeling in your body? Just noticing how there's some really beautiful exploratory work that can be done to help you find the details. Really, these are going to be the elements that you use to start your alchemical process. This is the coal. This is like the makeup of the coal that you're going to use in the process of alchemy to come out with a diamond. And notice that we can't even get to the alchemy without really understanding the coal. And so if there's ever a time where your ego or your mind is like, I wish this went faster, I just want to get to the alchemy, why are they going so slow? It's not about going slow, it's about gathering up the elements of experience that will allow us to understand what elements to apply to make the conversion to the next level of experience of life. And so take a couple of breaths, inviting you to just be here in this moment, breathing, coming out of that space mentally, and just slowly opening your eyes, bringing your gaze back to the room, back to the gravity of the earth, the air around you, the shelter around you, the screen in front of you. And we have a couple of more things to talk about moving into the next couple of months. But that is really the experience. So it's 8 o'clock now, and I invite you, as I move into the next slide, if you've got a piece of paper or a journal or even just a place where you can type, put what you can remember from this experience that you focused into down. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Who was there? Where was it? If you can remember a day, if you can remember a time, anything else that really came to you about why it was discordant, why it was a challenging or an experience where you perceive suffering. And that is really the assignment for the next month is going and doing that experience of what is the conditioning. So this little purple balloon here, what's the conditioning? That's the experience, okay? So we're going to find those experiences. We're going to identify the situations that exemplify this discordant conditioning. And then once we do that, or while we're doing that, we're also going to go and start studying our chart, okay? Your chart report down at the bottom right, this is what a simple chart from astro.com looks like. That gives you, you know, the red and the blue and the green. Yours is not going to look like mine. We all have different lines for different reasons in our astral experience coming up to the birth. So, no comparison. This is just you discovering you. Your chart report is going to tell you what your worst planet is. Mine is the moon, it's part of that T square. What your worst house is. My sixth house with the moon and Uranus right there, and Pluto in opposition to Mars and Venus. So I've got Pluto and Uranus and the moon as the most challenging planets. And so I'm just collecting this information, right? So then the chart I showed you before, that tells you, you know, what's the power, what's harmonious, what's discordant. My worst aspect is Sun opposition Moon. My chart report tells me that. So your chart report will go through and give you all of these details if you just look. And again, we're not looking to be like, oh, what's horrible about me? That's not true. None of this is what's horrible about me. This is what are the challenges in my life that I have the gift to alchemize? Because you can't do alchemy really. I mean, you can, but it wouldn't really make sense to do so. But you could. Um, if you've got luck compounds and you've got other beneficial compounds, you're not going to, those are not going to be the focus likely. The focus is like, that's awesome, I have luck, right? Well, what awesome planets do I have that might be the way that I can alchemize other planets? And we'll get to that later. So we will get to the alchemizing planets in the next class. But right now, our project is going and doing like what I did in the meditation, and then going into the chart and start looking at, okay, what am I looking at there? And you might start to see patterns related to those images that come in your meditations in relation to these elements of your chart that are aspects, and we also call them compounds. So remember, compounds and aspects are the same thing. And when I say use your resources, I mean use your astro.com chart so that you can visualize it if you need to. Use your chart report, use your experiences, and we're going to start building um, uh, essentially a toolkit for the chemistry we're going to do. So think about, we're going into the chemistry lab soon, right? What I need you to do in order to help you get there in a manner that actually is like, you're not just watching people do chemistry, but you're actually doing chemistry in the chemistry lab, is for you to gather your materials. So, and this is how you gather your materials, and that is coming to understand your chart, and then also coming to understand the experiences of your life that have been your conditioning that relate to the chart that we can work with. So hopefully that makes sense. Next class, tell me if I'm wrong. That is 6:30 p.m. on August 6th, which is a Wednesday.
Yep,
Hopefully
that's
that's
right.
right.
Our
I'm
next
gonna stop
class.
share.
Okay.
And
That was wonderful, Bridie. That was a great class.
oh, well, thank you for the input, Yvette. Of course, I thought yours was awesome too. So I know that, so for all of you, we're just doing the building blocks here,
Yeah.
and neither Yvette nor I are geniuses, but we both have learned to do a lot of mental alchemy. And I see thank yous coming. You're welcome. If there are any questions that you don't want to go away from this class without asking, please um, dive in and let me know. Or if there was something wrong in the presentation that you want to point out so that later when somebody sees this, somebody's picked it out for them. Of course, I did not have anybody edit this before I presented it, and so hopefully it wasn't too misleading. Um, but I don't see any questions that were specifically put into this.
Um,
Um,
there's a few people talking about having a hard time reading their birth chart.
right, so your job is not to specifically read your birth charts, right?
Right.
All we're doing is identifying the lines between the planets that are discordant, right? And your birth chart report will tell you that. So you don't need to learn anything to go to your birth chart because it'll show you what the symbols are that relate to the planets that they're talking about, and it'll tell you what the relationship between that and if there's a discordance between that and another planet. So we don't have to be tried and true astrologists at this point. What we have to do solely is go and start learning about the discordance and remembering our own life. Okay.
Yeah.
So um, don't, I remember when I started with the Church of Light, I felt very insecure about not really having as well memorized some of the things that we talked about today, but you don't have to because you have all of these resources in astro.com and in the birth chart reports, and all you got to do is go and put in your birth information.
Yeah, and just so that you're aware, there's some people here who are longtime astrologers, and it looks like there's some people here who don't even know how to read the report. When we start going into more of this mental alchemy, we're not going to be able to stop and explain the symbol to you because we're going to want to do mental alchemy. So if you want to continue with the class and you really don't know your chart, you have 2 months to at least learn the symbols and get to know your chart. Otherwise, you're just going to have to observe and let it flow because we're not going to do a basic astrology course for you right before we show you mental alchemy. Okay, we have a lot of videos online on our YouTube channel, and it's up to you to learn the symbols and to at least learn your own chart, the symbols in your chart. We have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel that can help you do that. But please, when we start going into this mental alchemy, we're not going to be able to stop and say, this is what where your sun is located in your chart. You're going to have to kind of have to know that. Okay. Just so that moving forward, um, yeah. Any other questions? Um, Zhao, you had, it looked like you had a question about, is there exercise related to the handout, the worksheet? Other than looking at your birth chart and filling in where the two lines connect, where the planet connects with your sign, and write in those keywords, and it might help you understand where you're at.
Right. So essentially identifying the aspects, which is what we call compounds, and doing meditations, hopefully daily, whether it's 15 minutes or another amount of time, so that you come up with the experiences, individual experiences, and then write down from the experience what you notice there. And then we'll eventually get to a place where we'll go to some of those experiences, right? And ask you to use those experiences to start identifying what we're going to be teaching you. So the materials that you're bringing next time are some written down experiences that bring in your thoughts and your emotions, what happened, what was the conditioning, etc. And then also you starting to identify what are the discordant compounds in your chart. So you don't have to match those up right now at all. We're not doing any material matching as your assignment. If you want to, you can, but that's not, we're going to teach you that as we go. So we're just asking you to gather the materials and bring them, but you've got to know like what is coal, right? You need to know like what is copper. You need to know, and so if you've got coal and copper and you don't know you have coal and copper, and we're like, this is what you would need to apply to coal or copper, then you're not going to know what to apply because you're not going to know what you're working with. And so coal and copper in this experience are the planets, right? And the energies that go along with the planets, and then other planets and the energies that go along with them is what we then eventually apply in alchemy. So know what your materials are coming in. So if you just want to pick one aspect and you only want to have to identify one um, symbol and planet and energy and another symbol and planet and energy, because that's all you can do right now, then that's all you need to do. So just
Mhm.
pick one discordant um, energy. If you want to, again, if you want to pick more, you can, but let's like just keep it simple. And the more you have fun with this, the better the alchemy is going to work. So just have fun and know that it'll all come together eventually. So enjoy, have fun over the next month, and don't stress and really like have a fun time going and gathering your materials, and don't work on too hard of scenarios. We're going to go in and like just observe some stuff, right? We're not going
Yeah.
to change our lives right now. We're just going to go in and observe some stuff. So,
Right.
any other questions?
Oh,
Okay, then.
all
Oh,
right.
Yelena said, did you see my question? We didn't. So, can you speak it? So, when I say any questions, ask them out loud, please, because I'm not
Okay.
going to go read.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Sometimes the sound doesn't work well on my laptop. I was asking, you had mentioned earlier about the chart report link that to make sure that you get to it because it might um the request times out and I haven't gotten around to it yet. So I was gonna say, or I was trying to ask if it did time out already, are we able to request a new link?
So just Yelana, let me see if I have your birth data, Yelana. No, so what you're gonna have to do is email me. It's about your birth chart. That's what the links were
No, no, I
talking.
know. No,
Okay.
I'm
So,
following along and I'm pretty
okay,
well
so
versed. But
Do you
uh,
want your birth chart or what? Not understanding, I
so
guess.
I was listening on my phone on the way home from work. But there was like something about a report that like she was saying like shows which houses are like the the most discordant.
That's your birth chart report,
Yeah,
and that's
no.
what we're talking about.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's the birth
It's
chart report. And if you don't have it, email me, Yvette@light.org, your birth data, and we will create a birth chart report for you and email it to you. And then you
Okay.
open it up in the email, and it's like 50 pages printed, just to give you a reference. It's long.
What's your
and so
email
what
address?
we
The
do
email
is
address?
we generate a link and we provide you with the link, and the link only stays active for a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
So
in
that's it?
first class, like you said. So I
Okay.
don't think I got the link.
I don't think that you gave your birth information for a link to be generated, right?
I don't have it. I don't have
Sure,
her birthday.
but I think I signed up for it either a little bit later or whenever I clicked the registration link, it didn't say anything about.
Yeah, so if you want the birth data report, no problem. You're just gonna have to email me your birth data, birth
Is your
date,
email the
time,
same we are receiving the emails from?
Yvette@light.org.
Oh,
And if you weren't at the first
Or Church
class,
of Light, just email Church of Light, I'll get it. And you're just email me those three things, time, birthplace, and birth date. And I'll get you a chart report emailed to you this week, okay?
I was
and if
trying
you
to make
weren't
it first class. I've been taking on a lot of extra shifts at work.
Okay. No.
so if you weren't at the first class, then you probably did not get a birth chart report because we only did it for people who showed up at class.
Yeah.
And
I heard,
so I would definitely go back and watch the first class because that has very good information. The other thing is we give these presentations and we provide the chart report for free during class. But uh, the software to generate it and the workings of the Church of Light are all done on a nonprofit basis, and that's how the church earns money. So what we always
I
do
already
is,
bought a book and I was looking through all of I've been like doing a bunch of research on like,
oh, good, yeah. So there will be a place on the
oh,
website where you can go and join. Also, there's a place where you don't have to join, but you can go and donate. So we just ask for those people that find this worthwhile and uh, I would say beneficial to their lives,
yeah,
to
I in the
go
book.
and
There are
donate.
probably two or three more that at least that I'm going to be getting.
Yeah, so the books are wonderful. Of course, that's the process, right, is to read the books. And we're using information from all over in the books to bring this class. So we are going through the Mental Alchemy book, but we're using other information from the books. Of course, it all comes together, right? So what we're teaching you here is not going to like teach you everything you need to know from the books, of course. So,
Uh, I didn't get the Mental Alchemy book. I got the Horary.
right. So again, you can do whatever order you want, but I think it's helpful to go through the books in order because they sort of follow each other.
Yeah,
But you don't have to. You can do it however you want. And again, like I didn't read the esoteric psychology book. Um, I think um, before I went and did Yvette's video on it. And Yvette's video on it made me really excited about it. And so then I really wanted to go and read the book because she did such a good job
oh,
of teaching the details that when I went and read it, I was like, oh, now I get it, right? So what's beautiful about the videos that the Church of Light provides and that you can access is that they have really awesome teachers. And so then if you find any of that helpful as you're going through, the donations that are provided because people want to keep the Church of Light going are the lifeline. So
Yep.
we always just invite, and it's not a requirement. And our job is to work within the divine plan, right, as cooperative components so that we can all get to where it is we want to go together. And I see Meg's on here, and I just, oh my gosh, Meg is, you are
I am
such
on
a,
my
you're such, Meg's such a mentor and has been doing this for so long. And the best thing is if Meg hasn't said anything went crazy awry, then I know nothing went crazy awry. So we're going away in a good spot.
I said good job. I and I apologize I came in late, and then I also apologize I got a phone call in the middle of this and I didn't mute my camera, and I don't know what my face was doing while y'all were talking. I'm embarrassed about that. But this was absolutely wonderful, ladies. I think you did such a good job, and everybody remember that the third Sunday of every month we have a service, and we talk about the upcoming sign and everything related to that. And this is we're an all service organization. I'll plug us. I wasn't going to say a word, but you called my name, so I will speak. I'm just so grateful for you ladies. You've just done a fabulous, fabulous job.
Thank you.
And and if it weren't for Byron Katie, I don't know what I'd be doing.
Right.
When
Agreed.
you reference Byron Katie, it's like, you know, if oh my God.
Yeah, so if you
Amazing.
go to the work.com, right, that's where you find Byron Katie's materials. It helps you pull up, do the what am I thinking in the experience? What are my emotions, right? And it really helps you pull it apart so you start understanding how you act and really how to alchemize in the a different way. But if you bring Byron Katie's stuff here and you learn the astrology, then you can bring it all together and it's even more understandable. So what I would say is they really help each other um, to guide us in a manner that provides us all the materials we need. So I agree. Go to thework.com. They're all free materials. Print out the worksheets and you can actually use them in the process. But I agree, I would not be here knowing what to do without Byron Katie. So yeah.
Bridie?
And
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Meg.
no, just once we set our feet on this path, once we make that commitment to set our feet on this path, the things that come to us because we have done that are absolutely miraculous. And as far as I'm concerned, this workshop is just one more miracle on the path to, becoming a fully functioning human being at this point in time. Well done.
Thanks, Meg. Peg, you were saying something.
Oh, no, I just was going to go toward the more mundane side. In regards to the order of reading the books, we recommend that everyone read the first 3 books first because they have all of the foundational concepts that you'll find in the rest of the books. So after the first 3 books, read Where You Will. If you want to learn about healing, read Stellar Healing. But first of all, try reading the first 3 books first. I had to get that plug in there.
No, that's
It's
perfect.
it's a good plug. And the other thing too is that we have a mentorship program, you know, and
Yeah.
for members. So, you know, join up, get a mentor. If you feel so lost. You know, I was up at 5 o'clock this morning mentoring somebody. You know, it's like, and it's a joy. It's a joy to do.
It's beautiful to build the relationships. Yvette and I did a shorter class on this at the conference last year. We have a conference coming up next year, so it's not, it would be this time of year, but like next year about in June.
It's been set for June 19th.
June 19th next
June
year.
19th. Yeah.
Right now it is.
So it's the thing about it is going there, you get so many good materials and you meet so many great people, and it sort of all comes together and like, oh, this is what we're doing. That you know, start with the membership now, get into the books, and then I would just suggest from my own experience, go to the conference. Yeah, they're every 2 years, Jesse. So we had one last year, we don't have one this year, we have one next year. And you can find that information at the light.org website. It gets posted there, and then you can get all the information on, you know, basically everything is there. And
And the
again,
theme
oh, go ahead,
and the
sorry.
theme for this upcoming conference is the language of astrology.
Woohoo!
Coincidentally or not.
Coincidentally,
Oh, okay. Any other questions, comments, anything else?
Well, there's one question about the conferences now being biannual. They always have been,
they always happen.
in my experience of 50
Yeah,
something years.
yeah, me too.
They're just a lot to put on, and we have a small staff. It's a lot of work, unless you want to volunteer to help.
Plus, you know, traveling is not cheap. So what you want to do is
Yeah.
save up, you know, over the course of 2 years, right? You plan for it, I guess, and
That's right. That's right.
then enjoy it.
And there, you know, it's at a hotel, and so you have the hotel, but it's the best money you'll ever spend. And you know, and it's such amazing fellowship. It's really wonderful. Such fun.
It really is.
We are not a glum lot.
No.
Well, I mean, the thing is like as you start doing the mental alchemy, you start raising that where your aerials fly. And so when you're around people whose aerials are flying high, um, you reach up to that, right? So the more fun you have, the more fun the people around you have, and all that alchemy is done naturally, right? So it really is. It just really is a group of, and the energy there is awesome. And you don't always find that where you go. And you know, even I would say people who are antisocial, because I think a lot of us are antisocial, generally. I mean, not everybody, but none of us are like the biggest social butterflies, but um, we find our people. And so even those of us that are introverts, we find our people, you know, and building the relationships with the people that are speaking your language and that are interested in the same things like this is awesome. Yeah, the antisocial club.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The antisocial. So you nailed it. You
Yes,
nailed it.
yes, the oxymoron of the antisocial club, for sure. So, yeah.
So somebody said the other day, I really want to be invited to everything, but I don't want to go.
My gosh, you
Oh,
just
well.
like, that's totally my life, right?
I know, I know. You know, and it's kind of embarrassing to think about that, but it's the
Right.
truth. So, oh yeah, you know, be sure I'm invited, but I won't be there.
So you're all invited.
Yep.
And you must come. You must.
Yeah, you don't get the same if you're not in person.
Oh,
That's
that's a good one. It's the antisocial social club. Yeah.
It is.
That's awesome.
How do you pronounce your name?
Yolana.
No.
Zhao.
Zhao? What is it?
Oh, me?
That's how you were asking me. I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
No,
Alrighty.
It's João.
Joao. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was not even gonna try it. Joao. I love that. Joao. It's Portuguese,
Yeah,
right?
Brazilian.
Brazilian. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
All
everyone,
right.
it's 8:32. And we'll see you all in August. If we don't see you before then,
Yeah.
in what's our next one?
Sunday service.
June 20 what?
For Sunday service is,
It's
Yes.
June 15th.
Is
yeah,
it
the
June
early
15th?
one.
Oh
Yes,
my
it
gosh.
is.
Okay.
It's June
So
15th.
June 15th for our next Sunday service,
Right.
which is going to be Leo. Yes?
Right. And we will,
Cancer.
and
Leo.
yes,
We
Yep.
do
Cancer.
Cancer before. So we did Cancer. Oh, it is Cancer because we just
it is.
we just
Yeah.
did Cancer. We just did Cancer.
Yeah,
We
it's
just did.
Cancer.
Oh, it
It's
is Cancer.
Cancer.
Oh, it is Cancer. Then the next one is Leo.
Yeah.
Oh my
okay.
gosh, somebody knows their
Thanks.
astrological
Wow. Yes.
order.
I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. We just did Gemini. I think it's because I was seeing the emails about Cancer, and so I thought we already had it for some reason. But
And
yes,
Mark is doing this service, right? Isn't it Mark?
yes,
Yes,
with
it's Mark.
Yeah.
yes.
It'll
Brian,
be great. Well,
it'll
they're
be
always
awesome.
great. And then always, I mean, it's at 11 Mountain Time, and so you can figure out from your own time. And it's generally, the service generally lasts between a half an hour and 45 minutes. But then afterwards, there's a Q&A, and it gets going. It gets really going. So, study up. Those of you who don't know the language, just do exactly what was asked of you. Just go in and learn the keywords to every sign, to the signs and the planets, and learn what the houses are. Those three things. And I just remember when I did it, I filled up notebooks of just doing that. Just keywords. That's all. It's all there.
And we gave some of those that are important here in the slideshow. So when it gets posted, just go to those, places and write it down. And then at some point, I think we're going to have a place where people can get some of the materials, but we haven't quite gotten there yet. So
Just
we'll
let
get
me
there.
know. I'll take care of it.
Oh, thank you so much, Peg. We really appreciate it.
All right. Well, I think we're out of here.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
In a couple
Thank you so
weeks.
much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
All
Great
right.
class.
Love and blessings.
Thanks.
Love
All
and
right.
blessings.
Thank you. Bye.